You ever wonder when you see these congressmen, both Democratic and Republican, taking these trips to Israel, what goes on there? Well, we got some spicy information from ace reporter Max Blumenthal on the Dave Smith Show here, on the Dave Smith Show called Part of the Problem. And this is good. You got to stick around for this. Thanks again for watching The Spin Cycle. If you like what I'm doing here, like, share, comment. Sharing this video with your friends is one of the biggest things you could do for me. And also comment. I want to hear from you what you have to say about the video, what you have to say about me. People say mean stuff all the time. I don't care if you're mean or nice or whatever. Just go ahead and comment. I want to hear from you. So Max Blumenthal, if you don't know, is he's been doing a lot of reporting on Israel for a long time now. He's Jewish himself, and he's against what the state of Israel is doing, not Jewish people like most Jewish people. He's not against the Jewish religion, but he's against what the state of Israel is doing in Gaza. And really, he's been reporting on it for years, what they've been doing for years. Basically, Israel, Gaza is just the beginning. Then they want the West Bank, they want parts of Lebanon, they want parts of Syria. They just want to take over the whole area and control the whole area. And they're using the United States to do it. And how they're doing that is by paying Congress people and senators large sums of money. Donald Trump got $230 million from him for his last election, or maybe his whole career in politics. And also Biden got like $100 million from him. And this is not a Democrat or Republican thing. It's a politician thing. All the politicians are taking money. And then Israel has their whole, they do it through their lobby AIPAC. If you saw my last video, that I put a bunch of clips up with various people talking about this. I'll put that right here if you want to watch it. But anyway, let's get started with the video, and you guys aren't going to want to miss this. It's definitely some juicy information about what goes on these trips in Israel when these Congress people go there. So let's get started.
And I've been hearing from a number of people I never thought I would ever meet in my life on the right, who are in right-wing media, who were kind of moved by what I wrote because it resonated with them because they were having a similar experience where they're working in right-wing or Trump-adjacent media organizations, and everything's going fine, and then all of a sudden they start questioning Israel, and their boss starts freaking out, either because the boss themselves is afraid or because the boss themselves is a Zionist. And then they realize there's someone in the office who just seems to only represent Israel, and they don't know why they're there. Yeah. And, one person I can point to, just because this is played out publicly, is Tim Pool. I'm sure you've been on his show. I've been on his show. Like, I found him, I was on his show like right after October 7th, and he was pretty open-minded about the whole thing. He let me speak my mind. I didn't really feel like I was being shut down. And he gets an invitation to meet with Netanyahu, I believe, in the first of the 4 trips that Netanyahu took in recent months. And they meet at Blair House outside the White House. There's a small group of conservative influencers, and it's Chatham House rules. No one's allowed to come out of that meeting with any details. You're not allowed to say what happened. And you're meeting with someone who's like involved in the worst war crimes we have ever witnessed, who's presiding over a Holocaust. Yeah. And you're not allowed to ask a tough question. And then Tim Pool goes back to his studio, and no one's supposed to ask him about it. But I think someone did ask him about it on air. And like, you could see he was like a deer in the headlights. And that, so basically when you get involved in conservative media, you don't know it, but you can't really, almost no one can question this because of where the money is coming from. And if you actually get involved directly, like you start going to these influencer summits with Bill Ackman, and then you take the trip to Israel and you kiss the wall and all that, it's like joining the firm. The firm, the early 90s book by John Grisham, where it's like you get in a law firm, and if you leave, you learn certain secrets, and if you leave, it doesn't work out too well for you. And Charlie Kirk was in the firm.
Dude, what happens? I gotta ask you, right? Because like I have somewhat famously never been to
So you get what they're saying there. They're saying that, you know, possibly Charlie Kirk was murdered by Israel because he was in the firm. He knew some of their secrets. He was in the fold. And now we're about to get to the juicy stuff about the congressman and what goes on these congressional trips. And, you know, I just saw a TikTok from a girl whose dad is a Republican congressman in Arizona, or a Republican senator, but a state senator, not a federal senator or a federal. And he just took a trip to Israel. Why is Israel paying for these luxury trips for state senators? You know, a lot of these state senators have passed, and state legislators have passed laws against BDS, which is basically the boycott of Israel through, you know, boycotting goods and stuff like that. And I think 23 states it's illegal to boycott Israel. Isn't that insane? In the US, it's illegal for an individual to boycott Israel. Max Blumenthal, he's been to Israel, and Dave's about to say he hasn't, but let's listen to what they have to say about this because it's really interesting.
to Israel. I did after that. I did get the invite, which I turned down. I was told this came from the top that I was invited there. And I was like, no, I'm not going. I don't know what it is you guys do and what these you have to come to Israel trips are, but I'm not going over there. I'm not doing any of this. I've read too much about this, and I don't want to go take a picture crying in front of your wall, and I don't want to come back to my hotel and find 3 people are already inside it, or like things have been rearranged to intimidate me. Like, no, I'm not doing this. But from your understanding, and you've been there many times, what is it that they do to these guys on these trips? Why do they always want people to come to Israel? And what is it that happens on these trips?
Well, first, this is our first time talking, so I would say I would really urge you to go. Just fly in there, fly to Ben Gurion International Airport, get out and just see it as a tourist, and then go to Jerusalem, go to East Jerusalem, see how Palestinians live. You can just walk right in there. And I can tell you what bus to take from there for $2 into Ramallah, and you'll go through the apartheid wall, and then you'll be in occupied Palestinian territory, and you can just see it all for yourself. And I really recommend everyone do that. And there are various ways to make contact with local activists and NGOs, even Breaking the Silence, the former Israeli soldiers NGO will take you on a tour of occupied Hebron in the West Bank and show you what they had to do there as soldiers. And I think that's all you really need to see to understand apartheid, is to go to H2 in Hebron, which is an entire part of a Palestinian city that has been sectioned off for some of the most fanatical genocidal settlers. And Shahada Street, which goes through the middle of H2, is a Jews only street. There are actually signs that tell you where Palestinians can walk and where Jews can walk. And you can go there and see that yourself. And you can talk to the soldiers who are there on duty. And they don't actually many of them don't like the settlers, and they're really bored and annoyed by the whole thing, but they're just following orders to participate in this genocidal project. So I think it's like, once you see that and you see apartheid for yourself, it really does give you an important authority that I think someone with your communication gifts should get. So if there's any way I can help, let me know. And everyone watching this, you should be encouraged to do that. Those who go on the APAC trips, which all freshman members of Congress get invited on, do not have that experience. And I personally had a similar experience because I went on Birthright Israel when I was much younger and was just starting to explore this issue, and sort of I would characterize my mentality at that point in my life when I was 22 years old as liberal Zionist. After returning, I shifted permanently against Zionism because I started paying closer attention to what was happening. The Second Intifada began, but we were like wined and dined. There was very little sleep. It was like an electrifying experience. There was so much group camaraderie. On the Birthright trip, it's also this gigantic sex vacation. They're encouraging as much sex as possible, because then you'll associate Israel with eros, with like eroticism, but also they want to encourage generational continuity, because, you know, as Jews, we don't go and convert other people. We only multiply through procreation and marriage. And it really, like, they openly encourage you to get drunk and push you into like party spaces. I did a video about this called, I think it's called Ziowana, for the Real News Network, where I went back and covered as a journalist a birthright mega event that Netanyahu spoke to. All the big billionaire donors were there. What's his name? Michael Steinhardt, who's one of the biggest Zionist donors in the US, told me, I said, you know, do you want them all to get married? Is that why you're doing this? And he said, not just married, they should just do it tonight. Like get him in bed tonight. It was like sick. And then they literally push him into a nightclub setting, and like some of the soldiers are like there, like young, attractive female and male soldiers will start dancing with them. And like, I would see that take place. I like the last night of my birthright trip, I was like exhausted, and I woke up and like there was a knock on my door, and a young woman had just come to the door who I'd never met before, and she was just like offering herself up. And I mean, you know, maybe some people watching this will laugh at me, but I just shut the door and went back to sleep. I woke up later that night, and my roommate it was on the balcony looking out over the Dome of the Rock, getting a hand job. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And, you know, the freshman members of Congress, there's like a famous story or infamous story that I think even Politico reported, where they all got so drunk in Tiberias, at Lake Tiberias, in Tiberias, the city of Tiberias in northern Israel, that they took off their clothes, and at least one member of Congress took off his clothes, Ben Quayle, who was the son of former Vice President Dan Quayle, and jumped into the Sea of Galilee. And they just had this drunken kind of like midnight swim. That's what they're doing to them as well. And then, you know, a lot of them are like used car salesmen from suburban Texas who could have never gone to Israel, who have these Christian Zionist biblical beliefs, and they believe, and they're taking on a free trip to see the land of the Bible. Palestinians don't even exist in their mind.
Yeah.
They see Muslims as terrorists. So Jim Jordan is one of them. And my friend Liam Cosgrove from Zero Hedge,
I know Liam. Yeah.
he was interviewing Jim Jordan. I just was like standing next to him while he was interviewing him at this this kind of like weird conservative press gaggle, where like young members of different Republican members of Congress could engage with different conservative media outlets. And I was kind of tagging along, waiting for Randy Fine to walk in. Anyway, he asked Jim Jordan about his support for Israel. And Jim Jordan says, Israel is above all other issues. It's not a political issue. It's a spiritual issue. And there's no criticism allowed. I've been there 6 times, and I'm looking forward to going again. And there is no questioning the alliance with Israel. And so that's how I think the Republican members of Congress see it. Then for the Democrats, it's like, it's becoming uncomfortable for them. A lot of them aren't going on these trips, but you have like Democrats like Wesley Bell, who are basically just paid tools of AIPAC. And if they refuse to go, they're out of Congress. Like Wesley Bell was brought into Congress specifically to destroy Cori Bush, because she was taking up the mantle of the Palestinian cause. And AIPAC spent like $12 million to get this backbencher St. Louis alderman into Congress with Super Bowl style ads. And none of the ads, by the way, had anything to do with Israel. They set up these stealth packs like Americans for Democracy and Fairness. And Cori Bush voted against Joe Biden's supplemental bill on the, you know, it's all like, and it's all that. So they just have to go. And then it's like a humiliation ritual for them, where they have to go to the wall, and they have to go to the Gaza border. And I mean, did you see the picture that the Democrats or various senators took with Netanyahu?
Yep.
And Cory Booker, you can just see his forehead behind someone, because Netanyahu owns him. Cory Booker's whole career is sponsored by Zionist billionaires. And he had to be in that picture, but you could tell he didn't want to show his face. So that's the Democrats. But yeah, on these trips, the other thing that happens on these trips for lawmakers is they're all under surveillance. Like their hotel
Right.
rooms are surveilled. Everything is being watched, and Israel's gathering tons of intelligence on the U.S. government through them.
Okay, guys, so what do you think about that? Our congressmen, senators, even state level are being bought and paid for by Israel. We need to get these people out of Congress. You see, they named a couple of them there, Cory Booker. But Cori Bush, the young black woman who was in Missouri, was replaced by this other guy. So Gen Z, if you're listening, and Gen X, and you boomers, we need to get these people out of Congress. If you're not for the genocide in Israel, do your homework, find out which ones, find out if how much money your representative takes from AIPAC, the Israeli lobby, and if they're taking any amount of money from them, they are compromised. Vote them out. Do your work in 2026. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment below, share, like, subscribe, and see you next time.